Hello and welcome to all of our Gold viewers who are here with us today. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC here at Gold. And here today with me is a special guest, LaToshia Rouse. Welcome, LaToshia. It's so good to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
You have a presentation planned for us for our GOLD Neonatal Online Conference of 2025, part of that lecture pack. And the title of your presentation is Ensuring Equity in the NICU. What an amazing topic, such an important topic. There's a lot of work to be done. But if before we jump into this, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Mm. So I'm the mother of four. I have a 15-year-old that was a 36-weeker, and I have triplets that were born at 26 weeks, 6 days, and had a 4.5-month NICU stay. From that experience, I have been working with hospitals and hospital teams. I'm also a birth and postpartum doula. I have tried to do every job possible within maternal child health.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, you had quite an experience in the NICU with your little ones there, right? So, is that how you became passionate about the topic of ensuring equity in the NICU?
Yes, because for me, I understood how my experiences were so different. At one point, I had all the resources in the world, the next point I didn't, and I needed support.
Yeah.
And I know if a family goes through the NICU and needs support, they're the most vulnerable in a community, and not having that has a real big impact on their outcomes.
Can you describe some of the most common disparities that you've seen in the NICU, maybe for you and for others? What stood out to you?
So it is the having the resources around transportation, being able to get to and from the NICU, getting to and from appointments became really difficult. I know for me, especially, and having transportation that was reliable, making sure I had food that was
Mhm.
healthy. We are trying to do so many different things and get to the NICU and take care of home, and sometimes we're forgetting to eat, or sometimes it is, oh, it's time to eat. I had food at home, but I'm not at home and now I'm out. So we're eating things that are just available to us, and we're kind of scrummaging through versus really nurturing ourselves so that we can nurture our babies.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that context, also, what does equity in the NICU mean for you?
Equity means that we are thinking about the true experiences of our families in the NICU and their needs. While they might be unique, some of those basic needs of food and safety and transportation, understanding what's happening in the NICU at that day, what's the care plan, what do I need to look out for, what do I need to prepare for, how can I support this baby in the NICU, and then just thinking about what happens when we leave? What
Right.
are those resources that will be there for us to make sure that these people are able to walk and talk and do all the things we dreamed of? And
Mhm.
so it's while we're in the NICU, the prep and the needs that exist, but also planning for when we leave and making sure that this community surrounds us with the resources that we need for these kids to thrive.
Absolutely. What do you wish the NICU staff would know about this topic, and what can they do in a very practical way to improve things?
There's a lot of stigma around having needs. And I think as a NICU parent, you feel it even more because not only do you feel guilty for having a baby early, or in my case, three babies early, you also feel guilty for not being able to support their every need on your own.
Mm.
And people don't recognize that those struggles can prevent us from having those discussions with them, or from answering the questions in a way that can get them to help us. And so making sure that they are open to and providing like that non-judgmental support can mean that we're able to share it and get the resources we need. But it's not necessarily that someone was irresponsible. It's not necessarily that they did something to cause it. It could be a moment in time. And so don't look at that person as someone who deserves a thing. Look at
Mhm.
them as someone that needs help, and think about how you're helping a whole family when you do help them.
Right. Very good points right there. Thank you for sharing that. Now, we know about words are powerful, right? Like words can help and or hurt. And what do you think, where is some good communication that you were hoping? How would that look like, in the NICU that would you feel like would be beneficial for families?
Mm. So, giving us hope and telling us
Mm,
what could be possible. Oftentimes you
mhm,
hear the stories around the worst case scenarios, but we don't hear the stories around the best case scenarios and
mm,
what we could expect and hope for.
mhm.
Giving us the opportunity to have access to them, having the families be available. We can talk to them, they could come in. Those kind of things give us hope. And then when you're talking to us, making sure that you don't necessarily show that you might not want to answer that again because we continue to ask over and over, so that we can process. It takes a while to process some of the things that we're being told in the NICU. This is a
Mhm.
brand new world.
Right.
It's a foreign world to us, and we have a new language that we're learning. So, a pick line, all of those things, you say it, and it's confusing. And so now I got to figure out what the pick line is and what you said I needed it for. And if I have questions about it, like that's a lot to process when you're in a state of trauma.
Exactly, in a state of trauma, and you yourself still recovering from birth too. It's not just like, this, you are in it too. You're recovering. The birth maybe was traumatic, unexpected, with interventions, and you are still recovering too. Maybe coping with what does pumping look like, or can I
Mm,
breastfeed? All these
mhm,
things, right? And then kind of also on top of all that, learning a new language, being sleep deprived, learning that language of the, PIC line and all these medical terminology, right? So there's a lot that is really, really heavy right there, and traumatic for the family who's going through that, right? So,
right.
do
And
you,
don't forget about the father, right?
yes, yes, good point
You
there too.
know,
Yeah. Hmm.
oftentimes I remember, my husband was telling me how they only looked at you. They only talked to you.
Oh, okay.
They acted as though these weren't my kids too, and so they get left out of the conversations. They get ignored, in a way that the moms don't. Like we get the attention, but dads get ignored. They are not looked at, talked to, referenced, and included in
That's
care at all.
yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up and reminding us about this. That still to this day, this is going on. That the fathers are still seen as like the bystander, which it's their child. It's their baby. How well did you think the hospitals did with family-centered care? Were you a partner in care, or were you kind of excluded? What can the hospitals do better? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was definitely a partner. There were times when I was able to tell the medical staff what I was seeing, as the person who was there every day. They have a day off, a week off, or whatever it is. Their
Yeah.
shift changes, but the families are there day in and day out. So I got to say, I don't know if that's right for my kid. Can we rethink that? Well, the last time we tried that, this is what happened. And they could go back and look and see, yeah, actually, that is true. I hadn't
Mm,
recognized that pattern. And that is true. So maybe we need to hold it right here and not make a change. I
mm,
was able to say, this kid doesn't do well if you change the oxygen fast. Like that's standard for you, but we probably need to do half of that for him because he will crash. He's
mm.
very, you know, sensitive to the changes in oxygen, and it might not have been true for other babies, but for this one it is. And so being there and being able to voice those kinds of things and not be seen as a threat, not be seen as someone who was overstepping, I was definitely a partner. I got phone calls at home, during shift change or after shift change, so I was updated. I got the information also when I would show up. I usually went at night. They would update me there. And we had these meetings, these care team meetings where we could talk about what were the needs and make sure that I understood. And I could call
Mm.
the meeting or they could call the meeting. So I was definitely a partner.
Wonderful. That sounds great. So before I let you go, Latasha, what do you hope our viewers will take away from your presentation?
I hope that they will understand that there are many faces to equity. It could be communication, it could be, education, it could be transportation, it could be
Mm.
any of those and more. And so being able to screen, offer access to resources, being, a partner to the families helps you to make sure that you're ensuring that they are experiencing equity in the NICU and beyond.
Oh, LaToshia, thank you so very much. It was so nice talking to you here, and we are looking very much forward to your presentation here at Gold. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And now some information for our viewers. If you are interested in this presentation, Ensuring Equity in the NICU, you can find out more about this presentation if you go to goldneonatal.com. This will be part of the Gold Neonatal Conference and also available later on as well. Thank you everyone for watching here today, and I hope to see you all at the conference. Bye-bye, everyone.